Hello, my name is Kathy Williams and I'm a clarinetist from Brisbane, Australia, and welcome to the second of my commentaries on the Rosé 72 studies, which are accompanying the Rosé recording project of mine of all 72 studies in order. And this commentary is on the second of the Rosé 40 studies. Now, at first glance, this study doesn't seem very musical. It's just full of broken chords, which are extremely good for technique, and you could also use this piece for legato and tone exercises if you play it really slowly, because there are examples where this could be very useful, where you've got intervals of 6. So etc. And it's also dolcissimo, so there is a sweetness to it, and it is only moderato crotchet 96. I wouldn't recommend it playing any faster. But when you look closer at the piece, it is possible to get some musicality out of it. And as I explained in the first of my commentaries on the first Rosé study, I learned this tip from Murray Pariah for instrumental pieces to drive the musicality via the harmony, because in a piece like this, well, you don't know what emotional state the composer wants, although I find this a very soothing etude. Now, once you've gotten a good legato between the notes, you can speed it up a little. And what I find is to make the piece a little more musical, we analyse the harmonic structure and base our musicality on this. Now, the first 2 bars are a G major broken chord. Then you've got the subdominant, which is C, and then the dominant, which is, well, actually the dominant's dominant, which is D, and then your dominant. Now, I think if you phrase these in 2-bar phrases based on the key structure, based on the harmonic structure, suddenly the piece begins to take on a musical character. So if you really emphasise the lower notes, because if you emphasise the lower notes, if you give them more support, the higher notes come out more easily. So what I would do would be really to emphasise the first chord of the first 2 bars, and just, you know, support that over the 2 bars, and then really support the next chord and then the next chord, so that you end up with something like this. Let's try that again. That really pretty much takes care of the beginning and end of the piece. Now, in the middle you've got something very interesting. You suddenly go from a key signature of 1 sharp, G major, into a key signature of 2 flats, and it's really based on E flat major and C minor, with a bit of G minor chucked in there to help the modulation eventually back to G major. And there are some technical difficulties in this passage. The first being the rather nasty E flat chords in the lower register, which you've got a number of times going from G to E flat. Now, when I first learnt this piece in first year at the conservatorium, I was tempted to use the or what would be the long B flat fingering on the upper register on the E flat. Don't do that, it sounds crap. But because of the speed it's at, that's not really an issue. You just need to make sure that the fingers are nimble enough to do it. So etc. So yeah, it is possible. Because I'll show you what it sounds like when you cheat. It's quite unpleasantly sharp. Now, there are some, the next few bars, which is the C minor broken chord, are really good for you to practice your left hand C. Let's admit it, we all hate it. But and then you're basically back to the start. And what I'd like to really emphasise are the last 5 bars, because these are in the very warm Chalumeau register, and you can sort of make it a quiet fluttering in the very rich lower register of the instrument, and you emphasise the lower notes, and it comes out really nicely if you play it like that. So it is possible to put a bit of rubato in the piece, but not so much that you completely muck up the time signature. Maybe if you do practice with a metronome, you can see how much you can stretch the time but still keep within the time structure. So with this piece, yes, you can play it musically. Let the harmony drive your musicality, and usually this is phrased over 2-bar phrases, so really build up and taper off. Emphasise the lower notes. Use this piece for your legato and wide leaps practice. Make sure that you use the correct E flat fingering in the lower register, because otherwise it'll sound too sharp. And also the left hand C to E flat, very good exercise there. Now that's my 2 cents on the Rosé second of the 40 studies. I hope this has been of some use to you, and I shall see you again when I present the third of my commentaries on the third of the Rosé 40 studies.